He stole my money the minute I let it out of sight. Of course, I should have expected it, but I didn't see it coming. And with my brother's wedding coming in a week, I was on the street. I had no choice. I went back home and slept in sheets covered in aliens and lightning bolts with a poster of a Cheshire cat grinning on top of a mushroom, smoking a joint with a caterpillar. I smoked weed and listened to old rock and roll. I waited for my brother's wedding. After it was over, I could disappear again, back into the ages, to return to the kingdom of memory. It was all that was required of me to make it to that one singular event, to have my photo taken in order to have a picture developed that could prove I had made it, that I was not as cruel and selfish as everyone thought. I would have that at least, even if I had no more. In the morning, I had a faraway feeling like my head was a bathtub being drained of liquid. I felt disconnected from the process. It had been a rough couple of years, and it had not gotten easier. I felt suffocated. I smoked more, and the panic eased, though there was still a base level of dread that existed inside myself that never seemed to go away. The thought that I might make it to a seminal family event without controversy was too much of a lure, and I crawled up inside the thought. I could see it now. My brother and his wife standing in the aisle. My parents' faces lit up like New York City at night. I could see the flash of the camera as it documented that I had made it.
Congratulations, bro. I'm glad you were here.
My brother would say.
Wouldn't have missed it for the world.
I would say. Then I would walk back into memory and time to disappear for another 10 years. All would be as it should. I would be redeemed. The thought stayed in my mind the entire week, until the day of the wedding. Then that morning, it suddenly disappeared. I felt depressed beyond reason, beyond space and time. I was in a faraway territory of grief, and I could not be saved. In the DR, it had been a different story. In the mountains with the breeze, it was not so bad to wake up in the morning. With the cost of things, money did not occupy the mind in the same way. But the fact remained, once you started wandering, you were a wanderer. And even the most hated home was still a place you dreamed of. So I got up and went outside to do my usual back and forth, up and down Riverside Drive. It would take an hour, but I enjoyed the walk. I had my suit on so I could walk to the wedding on the Upper West Side as soon as I was ready for it mentally. On 168th, I stopped for a moment to get my bearings. When I stopped, right in front of me was Moo. I couldn't believe it. He didn't notice me for a moment, but as soon as he did, he started to run. He ran toward Riverside Park, and I chased after him. Flying down a flight of cement steps, I could see the river. The Hudson flowed in both directions. The blue of the water hit my eyes and turned them a deeper blue. Mo was passing some Canadian geese when I caught up with him.
Motherfucker, what do you want?
The money now.
The knife caught my eye like another eye. Time slowed. The knife came towards me. I grabbed it somehow, and then I was turning it against Mo. The knife went in easy, and each time I put it back into Mo's flesh, it became easier. When he finally stopped moving, I realized what had been done, but it was too late. I left the park. There was nothing that could be done for Mo. But before I did, I took his wallet and his phone. On the way downtown, I had to button my suit as Mo's blood was on my white shirt. It felt odd, but after what he had done, I didn't feel sorry. Or at least I told myself that. When I reached the Upper West Side and the temple of my brother's wedding, I walked inside. I had made it. I could see my parents and brother up ahead. My parents walked further inside, and I walked to my brother to congratulate him.
Congratulations, bro. I wouldn't have missed it for the world.
What is that, Jacob? Is that your blood?
What? No, of course not. I just came to wish you good luck.
Covered in blood, you're out of your mind.
I just want you to be happy. I just came to say congratulations.
Well then do me a favor and don't go inside there like that. Go home and change your shirt, and meet us at the wedding party.
Back out on the street. A summer rain was falling. I stopped into a bodega and got a loose cigarette. I could feel the heat coming off the pavement, creating steam in my head, vaporizing the contents of my skull. I crossed over to Riverside and walked back uptown. When I got home, I changed my shirt as I stared up at the caterpillar with the joint. He was forever smoking, in a constant state of jubilation and ecstasy. There was no longing he knew. So I kept the caterpillar in my mind as I walked back downtown in my new shirt. But I would never be like the caterpillar. I would forever be under the gravity of dread, constantly longing for a new home, or struggle or solution, never content with anything but the needle and ecstasy, and even finding that to be too stressful. In the end, I would only find death, as I had found it before. There could only be my own destruction. Nothing else was possible. It was all I could find, and the shadow of death hung over everything. The thought stuck in my head until I reached my brother's wedding party. Inside the venue, colorful lights were strung and music was playing. I walked into a white hall with colorful blue lights and photos of the blissful couple hung up on the walls. Then I saw the guests of the wedding, burning alive until they writhed on the floor and stopped moving. The guests burned as the beings of light communicated their thoughts to me telepathically.
Pathetic, they said. Ridiculous how they danced, the voices said in my mind.
Then both disappeared. So I continued towards the main hall, where everyone was. Blue lights were burning and the guests all danced underneath them as I watched. I could hear their thoughts, but I could not see them. They were somewhere else. Those dread lords of death, sophisticated and otherworldly, were not to be seen. Maybe the beings of light were no different than human beings. Maybe they were just as savage, just as mad, just as violent. And if they weren't, I knew that the beings of light would never be able to finish the job. But the beings of light were gone, and soon the burning bodies of the dancers were bathed in a blue light as the fire became smothered. It was as though the blue light were suffocating the flames. I could see the whole party alive, dancing as though the beings of light never existed. My brother was looking at me, and when he saw my shirt was changed, he gave me a thumbs up. I walked up to him as he danced with his bride and tapped him on the back, just as a camera flash taking a photo and preserving the moment forever. I smiled at my brother. With the photograph taken, I realized I had made it without any controversy or trouble. I would no longer have to worry. I could leave. So I went out to smoke a joint. I lit it against the wind and inhaled deeply. The smoke filled my lungs, and I exhaled through my nose in order to taste the flower. The moon was reflecting in the back window of a car, and the light of it with the taste of the buds created a pleasant feeling. The dread was dissipating. And as the J burned, I thought about the last few months. I thought about Mo's body in my brother's wedding. I thought about the beings of light and the city of New York destroyed. I thought about heroin. I thought about cocaine. I thought about my mother and my father. I thought of the DR and the mountains, and the leaves like blades jutting out from the palm trees. And it all felt like too much, and it felt like too little. And as the city smoked next to me, burning beyond fire, I felt a deep fear. I realized all at once how vulnerable it all was, that it would all never come again, and that it too would be turned to ash by fire. That all my tomorrows would circle themselves and return back to the void from which they came. But it didn't bother me. It couldn't. There wasn't anything I could do. So I took a deep drag and held it in, deeply waiting to exhale. Exhaling, the smoke was illuminated by the blue and red lights of police squad cars. There was a tremendous amount, and their lights were screaming all at once in such a way that it created a shriek. I watched the police get out of their vehicles and circle me with their pistols drawn, screaming to get on the ground. But I couldn't move. There was no getting out of it. So I kept on smoking, and the voices of the police turned to ash and filled my lungs with a bitter taste. I had been to the ends of the earth, and perhaps I would make it there again. Perhaps not, though there was no reason to think this was the end, rather just the beginning of the next struggle. So while the police were grabbing me and throwing me to the ground, I held the smoke in, with pistols at my head and heart and smoke still in my lungs. I exhaled. It was over.